Yo, summertime is finally here. It felt like it was rainy and gloomy forever here in Southern California. Up until about a month ago, it was always rainy and super gloomy. But now that the weather is nice, you all may be having some trips planned, so I figured I'd share some of my favorite summertime Fujifilm recipes with y'all. Most importantly, bright Kodak. But we'll get to that. As some of you may know if you watched my recent video about my new favorite camera, the Fujifilm X-Pro 2, you'll know that I bought this camera to document my travels, family moments, and so far this summer, it has not left my side. Whether that be us, backyard at the pool or camping at a beach, I can't tell you how much this camera has really reinvigorated the joy of taking photos for me. And this is a really dope kit, and on top of that, the really cool part is the fact that you get to shoot with different recipes. Now I have a handful of recipes and each one gives you a unique feel and provides a unique character to each of your photos. Although I have several recipes at my disposal, so far I've been using 3 specifically because they work in most shooting scenarios and lighting conditions, and they give me a film-like nostalgic kind of feel to my photos. First up, we have Tri-X 400, and honestly I think that everyone needs a solid black and white recipe in their camera, and this is mine and it's super clutch. I like my black and white photos to be punchy and full of contrast, and we all have different preferences. Of course, some of you may like the softer black and gray look, but this is definitely not that. I recently used this recipe when attending my brother-in-law's wedding, and it came in handy for those nighttime low light photos, and it made it feel timeless. Onto the settings, so that way you guys can plug this recipe into your Fujifilm camera. First up, we have dynamic range set to DR200. The film sim is Acros plus yellow. Grain is strong. Of course, you can adjust that if you like your grain to be a little bit lighter. You can do weak, but I like strong. White balance is set to red 3 and blue -7. Highlight tone is set to 0. Shadow tone is set to +3. And of course, your color should be grayed out because this is black and white, so it should be 0. Sharpness is +1 and noise reduction is -4. Now, of course, if you like your photos to be not as punchy, you could just adjust the shadow tone or just do it in post, but I like mine punchy. Next up, we have my catch-all, jack-of-all-trades kind of film recipe, and this is called Nostalgic. Now, this film recipe has been my most versatile of all the ones that I use, and I think it's mostly because the white balance is set to auto, so it works well in different lighting scenarios, different times of day, indoor or outdoor. So yeah, this is a really good versatile film recipe that you guys can use for almost any scenario. Here are the settings. Dynamic range is set to DR200. Film sim is classic chrome. Grain is weak. White balance is auto, like I said earlier. Highlight tone is -1. Shadow tone is set to 0. Color is +4. Sharpness is also set to 0. And noise reduction is -4. And now for the ultimate summertime recipe, bright Kodak. Now this is perfect for all things outdoors, all things daylight. If it's high noon, if you're outdoors hiking, going to the beach, it doesn't matter. You're in the desert, you're in the jungle, it doesn't matter. This recipe is great outside, outdoors, and it gives you that summer feel. Now I just came back from some beach camping, which is where this recipe definitely shined, and I used it 100% of the time. I didn't even switch to any other recipes. This was my only recipe that I used, and depending on your preferences, you may want it to like tweak the shadows either in camera or in post if you want it more contrasty, but I like the look of this recipe. It makes everything feel warm and light and summery, and it gives your photos like that instant memory feel, like it has a soul, like this was a moment worth capturing. So onto the settings. Dynamic range is set to DR400 for the most dynamic range. Film sim is set to classic chrome. Grain is strong. White balance is set to daylight with a red +3 and a blue -7. Highlight tone is -2. Shadow tone is -2. Color is +4. Sharpness is -2. And noise reduction is -4. Now, as time goes on, I will definitely be using more and more recipes, and I'll find a full set that works for me in almost any shooting scenario. That's just who I am. I'm gonna be, hoarding and finding all these different recipes that work for different scenarios. Later this year, I have a trip planned to Mexico City, and I definitely want to have a suite of recipes ready for that trip. I want to have the recipe that's gonna coin the Mexico City look for me, and I still have to find that, but it may be one of the ones I already have, but I got to get in that environment and test them out and see what works for me. And that's the excitement of shooting on Fujifilm, and that's why I love this X-Pro 2 so much. Another thing for you all to consider is when you look at any of the sample images that I showed you in this video, all of those images were captured with a 1/8 black pro mist filter attached. So for all of you that don't know, that means that my highlights are going to be slightly bloomed and my shadows are going to be slightly lifted. So take that into consideration when you're looking at these pictures. If you want the exact same look, be sure to attach a 1/8 black pro mist filter to your camera as well. It gives you a nice filmic, soft, cinematic kind of look, I guess. But yeah, I like black pro mist and I use it on all my images. But that's about it for me, guys. Hopefully these recipes help you. Hopefully you guys use them out in the wild and take a ton of pictures this summer. Be sure to tag me in anything that you guys take, you know, whether it be on Instagram, Twitter, or Threads. I'm on Threads too. Follow me everywhere and tag me in all your pictures. I want to see them. I want to see what you guys create. I am FilmedByFresh everywhere on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Threads. Also, I am sprucing grain on Instagram for just strictly for my photography. Any photos that I take with the X-Pro 2 or with film will be on sprucing grain. I'll leave all the links down to that in the description and of course on screen. But it's been a pleasure as usual, guys. Thank you for watching, and until next time, stay fresh. Peace.